Respected Mr. S.C. Suman, Head of Department of Folk Arts, Nepal. Mr. Advait Gadanayak, Sculpture. Mr. Advait Gadanayak, Sculpture, Director General, NGMA India. Ms. Meera Ravi, Writer and Journalist, Bahrain. Respected Ms. Shreya C. Nag, Choreographer, Producer and Dancer, Spain. And we have the moderator. She is Ms. Kshipra Shukla, Chairperson, UP Institute of Design, who will moderate the session. Ms. Sumiti Vasudev, DDG ICCR, will be the coordinator. So, Ms. मीनाक्षी लेखी जो है उनको किसी इंट्रोडक्शन की ज़रूरत नहीं है. She is a very dynamic और energetic woman. आप महिला सशक्तिकरण का प्रतीक हैं और ये कहने की ज़रूरत नहीं है कि आप बहुत बढ़िया ओरेटर हैं और आज हमारे बीच में आप आई हैं. आप इस कार्यक्रम की शोभा बढ़ा रही हैं. पधारने का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय. तो एक बार जोरदार तालियां हमारी माननीय मंत्री महोदया के लिए. शी इज द सिंबल ऑफ वुमन एम्पावरमेंट. महिला सशक्तिकरण का प्रतीक है. सो लेट मी इंट्रोड्यूस द थीम टू यू. लेवरेजिंग द सॉफ्ट पावर ऑफ इंडिया गुडविल थ्रू क्राफ्ट, cuisine and creativity. And today this session we have, as I told you, the eminent speakers. The guests are there from different genres. एंड जब हम बात कर रहे हैं क्राफ्ट, कुजीन एंड क्रिएटिविटी की, तो जब इंदौर की बात आ रही है और बार बार प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब ने भी और सब ने बताया कि यहाँ की कुजीन बहुत अच्छी है, तो मुझे लग रहा है कि बहुत रेलेवेंट सेशन होने वाला है. सो आई हैंड ओवर द फ्लोर टू द कोऑर्डिनेटर, टू द मॉडरेटर, टू प्रोसीडिंग्स, टू फर्दर प्रोसीडिंग्स.
Namaskar. Good evening to all the eminent speakers representing different countries and wonderful audience gathered here, who are going to witness and be a part of the discussion on leveraging the soft power of India, goodwill through craft, cuisine and creativity. We have welcomed the new year after listening to the energetic speech made by the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji today on 17th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. And this type of the session is already very close to each and everybody's heart, including our Prime Minister. These three C's not only leverage the soft power and goodwill, but also strengthens the local masses down the line by making them self-reliant. On this occasion, we have Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs and Culture, Srimati Meenakshi Lekhi ji, who is not only a minister, but an eminent lawyer and a social activist too. She is an eminent speaker, known for her exemplary debate in the Lok Sabha on intolerance in India, Triple Talaq Bill. She was awarded with the Best Debut Woman Parliamentarian Award by Lokmat in 2017. During her long political journey, she also made a point to keep standing for the social issues. She has been a part of the drafting committee for bills like Women's Reservation Bill and Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Bill. Ms. Lekhi represented the media in court to get the ban on media coverage of case proceeding revoked. She has been a member of the National Commission for Women's Special Committee, chairperson of the Special Task Force on Women Empowerment as well. We warmly welcome Honorable MOS Mrs. Meenakshi Lekhi ji and would like to request her to enlighten the audience with a kind words. Please.
I need a stand. Stand here. Thank you very much for such a wonderful introduction. I hope I deserve all that you've spoken about. Honorable Minister, Mr. Avinash ji from Mauritius, Mr. Advait Gannayak, Mr. S.C. Suman, Ms. Meera Ravi, Ms. Hamisha, Ms. Sherji Nag, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. So the subject of today's panel discussion is leveraging the soft power of India, goodwill through craft, cuisine and creativity. Now whenever I think of India, what is the first image which comes into the mind? Bharat, that is India. And Bharat, that is India, is how the Constitution introduces us as a polity, as a constitutionality, as democracy. But whenever you think of Bharat, what's the first ancient image that comes to the mind? So to my mind, the image of so-called dancing girl comes to the mind. And that is representative of Indus Valley civilization. That is representative of a culture and civilization which is soft, gentle, yet very confident, self-assured, and technically sound. Because to create that piece of bronze in few thousand BC, 5,000 years ago, plus more than 5,000 years ago, you needed the art and the craft and you needed the skill to produce that. And what is that image depicting? That image is depicting a young woman who is careless, confident, and standing right up. You see, the West has learned this pose now. And I must say, this pose they must have replicated and copied from Indian history and Indian civilization. This is our pose. But the problem with us is we never created patents on our poses. We never created difficulties for others who wanted to replicate us. We never came in the way, rather we promoted sharing of knowledge. That's the kind of people we are. And that gentle face of a young woman standing by herself with so much of confidence also depicts a civilization which is by and large peaceful. And that's what Indian diaspora, Indian ethos, Indian value system is also all about. We are basically non-violent people, basically promoters of non-violence, value system which is sharing knowledge, sharing craft, busy in creativity. And I always have an argument for this, that if you're an artist, most of these people on the dais are artists. So if you're an artist, with exception of me, I'm no artist, but I would say that people who are artists, what are they working on? What is that they wish to do or engage themselves with? So their thought process is constantly engaged with themselves and making their own craft better. So who are they competing with? Themselves. So if somebody is a singer, would try to learn as many rags, as much the grammar of music, as much as possible, create variation, create different tunes and diversionary methodology on those aspects. But that's what they will be busy engaging in. Advait ji is a sculptor, so he'll be busy sculpting a stone and trying to get as much facial expression as possible, trying to make it like a digital picture as we have got used to. And when we talk about Indian architecture, so it's not about spiritual powers and ethos which were depicted in all the architectural buildings and temples and so on and so forth, but it also depicted the involvement of the creator with his or her own piece and making the art better and better because you are constantly upskilling yourself. Where is the time to be violent? Because most violence comes from the thought. So if you're busy making a living, if you're busy learning new things, if you're busy creating a knowledge pool, if you're busy writing, reading, and engaging in discussion and maybe being true to being argumentative Indian, where is the time to pick up a sword and start killing people? You're just busy doing what you're good at. And thus the Harappan civilization, which itself depicts what India's values and ethos are all about. And that value system would definitely not mean that if we are getting attacked, we will remain non-violent. So comes Ashoka's edicts. So Harappan civilization gets to be followed by Mauryan period. And that Mauryan period at that time, 254 BC or 300 BC, around that period, starts scripting what the laws are going to be. And all that area which is no longer part of India was part of India. And those were the Indian value systems, ethos. Now coming back to goodwill aspect, when so many qualities, transformational qualities that Indians possess as civilization, as value system, ingrained in them, is what they carry as part of goodwill. So wherever we go in the world, we carry our craft, our art, our sensitivity, our sensibility, and creativity along with it. And we have the capacity to be connected to our roots and yet keep changing with the changing times. So we are adept at using technology. So while the theme may remain Indus Valley civilization, but we are capable of creating beautiful sculptures out of it. We are capable of making films out of it. We are capable of displaying what art and craft in India is all about. And that's what each and every Indian or each and every person of Indian origin carries with himself or herself across the globe. And cuisine, I must say, 2023 has been declared the year of the millet, but I'll take you back to Harappan civilization, where hordes of millets have been found. So we are basically millet eaters. And since we are millet eaters, we gave up this habit of eating millet and we went on to eating polished food. So did our weight go up, our glycemic index changed, diabetes to everything else. I've been hearing a lot about healthcare just before this particular session. So it goes to indicate that the healthcare could be made better by preventive healthcare, and that's what is also India's take on the healthcare system itself, the global healthcare system itself. So you can reduce the burden. Instead of being curative approach, you can just go back to yoga, eat the right dietary food, and then convert the entire thing into preventive healthcare mechanism. And Ayurveda, of course, the timing of what we eat, season of what we eat, who should eat what as per one's own pravriti and dosh, that's all part of Ayurveda. And this system, fortunately, comes to us from Atharveda. Ayurveda is part of Atharveda, which went out of this country, traveled to the Middle East, and came back to us in the form of Unani medicine. Because through Middle East, it will go to Europe, which is Greece, the borders, and come back to us as Unani medicine, come back to us by a different name. And now the Europe and the West is taking it and aping it as holistic medicine. When you ask them the foundation of holistic medicine, they'll be quiet, but holistic medicine is the medicine which came out of this country. And it is thankfully all written, so no one can really say that this never came from India. The Sushruta Samhita's articles, which they use as equipment and instrument for operating cataract to other surgeries, happen to be identical even today. I know there are many doctors present here in the audience. I know how Indian doctors are respected the world over. But I also know that Sushruta Samhita is the first book of medicine which nobody gives credit to. But Sushruta Samhita is where the description of our instruments and equipment lies, and that continues to be in use till date. That is what India's soft power is all about. But soft power is so soft in our hearts and heads, and of course the value system, that we forget to take credit. While the power has to be soft, the exercise of it, or I can use the word branding of it, needs to be more rigorous. And that rigor is what needs to be followed. That we must learn to claim it to be ours. We must say it's come from us. And I was just reading about that, how in the times of Ashoka and beyond, fire came much later, second CE. Fayan describes that in the region which is, of course, now Pakistan, then India, Takshashila and other areas, the public healthcare system was so great that anyone who's a widow, a cripple, animals included, and others could be taken to these facilities, and Vaishya means the traders and the merchants who were controlling that area were funding these institutes. So charity and medicine just went hand in hand, and these people used to fund these institutes. In these institutes, public healthcare system persisted. Any person who's unwell or ailing could stay as long as that person doesn't get better. The food and the care, the post-care, was given free of cost. And similarly, there were animal hospitals existing in this country in 2nd century CE, is where the description in writing is found. Now my point is, our neighbors will stake claims to all the learning they may have made out of this country. So Fayan to Yunsang to several others came for learning to this country. Kumar Jiva translated the works of Buddhism from Sanskrit to other languages. We are not staking claim, but I think when we talk about soft power, the soft power has to remain soft. It cannot be hard power. Because the moment it becomes hard power, it no longer remains the power. But the power has to be somewhere claimed. And I personally feel those claims we have to be more robust about. I was listening to a podcast, and that podcast said that the blue color was invented by one of our neighbors. And I was like, what? My gods were blue, or are blue. And so many of my friends and family, people from diaspora, died because they were growing indigo for the other powers. And they were transported as indentured labor because they lost their bread and butter in this country. This is the history of this country, and others just come and usurp, say, blue color was not there. I say, blue color is found from Indus Valley to all the Bhimbedka paintings and everywhere. We've been using blue, and we've been using red. Hematite is what we've been using red for. But this is where the soft power needs to be spoken about in a hard way. And that's what we all need to do, because when it comes to cuisine, when it comes to craft, today I'm very happy that wherever, not really way back, I would say 20 years ago, it was a problem to get proper desi food in some parts of the world. But today, from Tokyo to Toronto, you get kali dal to naan to everything else, and dosa included. My mouth is watering already. And from all these places, we can just, from Firozabad to Finland, you get to eat whatever you like to eat. This is the story of cuisine. Indian cuisine has become very popular, and with 2023 being the year of the millet, I'm very sure that it would still become better, because millet, the way Europe uses it, is mostly in the form of gruel. And that can be sometimes unpalatable for the children and all. But the way we use millet, we have 20,000 dishes which can be turned out of millet and can make it really tasty and healthy food. So cuisine could be one way of interacting, and we as Indians believe that the way to the heart is through the stomach. I'm not going on the medical field, but just as a, as we say, खिदवंती, that ज़बान से जो बात निकाली जाती है, मन की बात, तो उस किदवंती का यही मतलब है कि अगर किसी का दिल जीतना है तो पहले पेट के रास्ते से जाना होगा, उसको पहले अच्छे से खाना खिलाना होगा. तो cuisine being the part of our soft power is very well appreciated. And craft, I must add, that the Prime Minister has repeatedly said that vocal for local and local for global. So all the art and artifact which we see, and I'm very, very proud that if I visit a museum and I see some saris and paintings and sculptures and beads from gold to munga to rubies to everything else, I see my forefathers used the same set of craft. वो 5000 साल पहले भी वैसी ही माला जैसी मैंने पहनी हुई है आज, वो टंगी हुई मिल जाती है म्यूजियम के अंदर. वही साड़ी which I may be wearing today, the craft, you will still see that same craft being practiced today. From Kanjivaram to Chanderi, Madhya Pradesh में खड़े तो चंदेरी की बात करनी ज़रूरी है. We see all that even today. From hand-woven saris to Ajrak paints to the paintings on the wall, the murals, same thing you can see today. A few thousand-year-old tradition which continues today. The cart, in fact, as a child, I remember, there used to be a cart made like a kullad ka adha piece, drum, and the two wheels, and it'll go tuck, 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 tuck. It'll go like a drum, and all the children will run around with it. And same kind of cart is what you see as a symbol of Harappan civilization. So this is how we are a continuing civilization, and our craft pieces and our artists continue to practice the same form of art in spite of challenges till date. So I think it's our moral duty, not just a duty towards the country or the craftsmen, but a moral duty, an ethical duty, to buy those things, to promote that art, because nowhere in the world people are as creative as these people. Nowhere in the world people have continued with their skill as these people have continued, and that is not because of people who patronize them, but that is in spite of the challenges of survival, they continue to do that. So I think when it comes to Indian craft, the soft power will also mean that we promote the art and craft of this country, whether in the form of sculptures, paintings, dresses, curios, whichever way we can do. That small amount of money which gets to be spent is a huge investment in the future, and also an investment in somebody's livelihood. So vocal for local and local for global, as the Prime Minister explained, and I think it's time that we get back to our roots and start promoting the craft and art of this country and creativity. I'm sure the creativity which comes to us so naturally, simply because of the diversity which this country has preserved, simply because we have the ethos and value system of taking everyone along, respecting everyone. There's no monotheistic thought in this country. The thought is, you could be speaking something which is exactly opposite of me, but that could also be true, as much as what I'm saying is also true. And the idea is to give space to both thoughts. And that is so peculiar to India, and that is so peculiar to our culture. I think a whole lot of value system we can add to the word. And I sometimes joke about it. I said, is desh ke andar, dharm constant hai. So dharm is not a religious faith, but dharm is what is right, what is correct, your right behavior. And right behavior is constant. And right behavior could be different in different circumstances. For example, I said, we worship Sita. We worship Sita because she was completely devoted to her husband and she did exactly what her husband said. Sometimes, except once. But we also worship Meera, who did not follow her husband at all. Because dharma was that. We have Ram as an embodiment of what a son should be, following everything the father says. But we also worship Prahlad, who did not follow his father at all. This is what dharma is. Being on the right, following the right. It's not what should I say, not getting the right word, but it's not closing your eyes and following certain path because somebody told you to do that. But it's about questioning everything and thinking with your own ideas as to what is right in that circumstance and following that path of truth. And because you're following the path of truth, the ultimate aim of mankind is Sat Chit Anand. Anyone who follows the path of truth will be granted Anand, the Param Chit Anand, that you'll always receive that. And I think with these words, I will end my address. And I would say that the diaspora, as the Prime Minister has often said, are our unofficial ambassadors. He used the word, wo Rajdoot hai, aap Rashtradoot hai. Just this morning he said, aap Rashtradoot hai. तो राष्ट्रदूत तो राष्ट्र की जो चेतना है, राष्ट्र का जो मार्गदर्शन है, वो दुनिया तक पहुंचाने का काम आप ही के जिम्मे है. Because the way you interact, the way you meet people, the way you express yourself, the way you create a standing for yourself and the society and your contribution to society and value system is what makes all the difference. To my mind, I would say the benefit of engaging diaspora is that diaspora will carry the soul of India and explain it to the foreigners in their language and bring those stories back to us. And Indians are great storytellers. So these stories which we are capable of telling, let's all tell the positive stories about India to the world in the language they understand and bring back their stories to this India so that India can progress and still do better. With these words, thank you very much. Jai Hind.
What a mesmerizing explanation of Bharat's civilization and dharma you have given. Wonderful. We are just flattered. Frankly speaking, we have already been saying in our course books, we have seen bronze statues every time, but nobody gave us such a beautiful explanation the way you have given. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for sharing your experience and giving us a new narrative. Before moving to our technical session, Ma'am has already said that Honorable Prime Minister keeps emphasizing on vocal for local and self-reliant India and local for global. He is gifting Indian handicrafts and handlooms to the foreign dignitaries, and even during his visits abroad. Even recently, in the G20 sessions, he has gifted black pottery from Suhit Prajapati, a small artisan from Azamgarh, Nizamabad, then a metal pot from Dilshad Hussain from Muradabad. Even he's a Shilp Guru, he's a small artisan of Muradabad. So you can see that he is trying to escalate each and every artisan he's promoting, and he himself is personating that. So he's a brand ambassador for crafts as well. To start with session, I would like to invite Honorable Minister Mr. Avinash Talukji on the dais. He's a Minister of Arts and Cultural Heritage from Mauritius. He became MP in November 2019, admitted as a lawyer to the Supreme Court of New South Wales, Australia, did his Masters in International Corporate and Financial Law and Law Honours from University from UK. In January 2015, he was recognized as a rising star in financial corporate by IFLR 1000 for the Financial and Corporate 2019 edition. We welcome Honorable Minister Shri Avinash Talukji.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You make Mauritius feel proud. Srimati Meenakshi Lekhi ji, Minister of State for External Affairs and Minister of State for Culture. My fellow panelists, delegates, friends, सभी को मेरा और मॉरिशस वालों का सादर नमस्ते. Excellency, before I go into my speech, I've heard you talk about cuisine and desi food. You said Faridabad to Finland, but you should have said Madhya Pradesh to Mauritius. हमारे भी घर में देसी फूड मिलता है. मैं जब भी भारत आता हूं तो ऐसा लगता है कि मैं अपनी मां के गोद में आया हूं. जो प्यार मां के आंचल में महसूस होता है, वही प्यार, वही भावना भारत आने से मिलता है. And allow me to thank and congratulate the government of India for putting together in such grandeur this Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. PPD is not just a conference. PPD सिर्फ एक सम्मेलन ही नहीं, PPD एक बुलावा है. बुलावा उन करोड़ों भारतीय प्रवासी जो अनेकों देशों में बसे हुए हैं. A call to connect to our roots, to our traditions, to our values, and a call to connect to our origin. So on behalf of all those Pravasi, ek baar phir, dhanyavad India, for opening up your arms to welcome us in Indore and for taking such good care of all of us. And a special word of gratitude to the CM of Madhya Pradesh for the organization and logistics. Indore is definitely treating us very well. It is indeed a privilege to participate in this plenary session today from this very platform which has seen some hours back Shri Narendra Modi ji, who inspired us strongly to further our cultural relationships. And Modi ji himself exemplifies the soft power of India. And the importance he gives to culture clearly illustrates itself in all the effort being garnered by the government of India to put in the forefront of development our culture, our tradition. And it is also not a coincidence that the theme of the G20 summit this year, which is chaired by India, of course, is Vasudev Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. And our ties, us Pravasi, is even stronger and deeper, because we do not only share the ties of humanity, but we also share the ties of blood. And then when it comes to Mauritius, this relationship, this bond is even thicker. Our ancestors from India came to Mauritius and have helped build a nation based on sanskar, on Sanskriti, which flow along the tides of the Ganges, Ma Ganga. This is why each and every time I come to India, I feel at home. Our ancestors left India for Mauritius, but India couldn't leave the hearts of our ancestors until date. 5 generations down the line, India still lives in our hearts. And when we travel for this Divas, we bring our part of India to Indore. Mauritius has a large Indian diaspora, and the story began, as my friends know, when some 200 years back, from 1849 to 1923, the British brought some 500,000 indentured laborers from different states of India, such as Bihar, Kolkata, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry, to work in the sugarcane fields after the abolition of slavery. The place that disembarked in Mauritius, called Port Louis, the Pravasi Ghat, is now a World Heritage Site and is recognized to be the start of the great experience where the British started experiencing a new labor system, the indenture. Coming to Mauritius as Girmitya Mazdoor, our Purvaj brought along all their traditions, their beliefs, religions, and culture, which they have transmitted from one generation to the next. And in Mauritius, we have strongly preserved and promoted this ancestral culture inherited from our forefathers. We have been so conscious and so ardent in our commitment to preserve and to transmit our traditions, our culture, that we are proud today that some of these traditions, inherited from India centuries back, which are actually not longer practiced in India, are still very much alive and practiced in Mauritius. And one of the most vivid example is the Bhojpuri Geet Gawai. A flamboyant tradition involving prayers and rituals practiced on certain occasions, taking the form of dance and song, which was a cultural demonstration inherited from our forefathers from Bihar. The Geet Gawai in Mauritius has not only been preserved, practiced as at now, but we have stepped up in our commitment, and Mauritius went further to have the Geet Gawai inscribed and listed as a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity in 2016. And friends, this is but one example. Festivities, prayers are celebrated with equal fervor and devotion. और अगर हम भाषा की बात करें तो Mauritius is one of the very rare countries where several languages, including English, French, Hindi, Urdu, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Bhojpuri, Creole, Chinese, Arabic, and Sanskrit are written and spoken. Many of these are even taught at school. But it doesn't stop there. Over the years, we have introduced several legislations enacting the setting up of cultural centers and speaking unions with clear and non-equivocal mandates of promoting and preserving the rich Indian cultural heritage, its language, craft, the cuisine, and creativity. We have amongst us many of the chairpersons of these cultural centers and speaking unions who have flown from Mauritius for the cultural center, along with chairpersons of various social cultural organizations who have made it a must to travel for this Divas, and other organizations such as Gopio, Sanatan Dharm, and others. And as Modi ji stated earlier, which applies to Mauritius, we have moved on the path of modernization, on socio-economic development, but we have tightly and fervently clutched ourselves to our virasat, our cultural heritage. And this is what defines our strength. Not just Mauritius, not just India, but for the whole diaspora. The determination to progress without any jeopardy to our sanskars, to our values, our resilience, the patience, the hard work. Today, if I take the case of Mauritius, from a monocrop economy, Mauritius has flourished into a service-driven and knowledge economy. And all along these phases of development and progress, Excellency, allow me to highlight that India has stood along with Mauritius, strong and firm. Whether we speak of our ICT sector, the metro, our health sector, our educational sector, and most importantly, in moment of crisis, like during COVID, with the provision of the much sought after life-saving vaccines and other medical support. Bharat ne hamara saath nahi choda. And we are ever grateful to India for considering and for standing for its diaspora at every moment, and the more so during challenging times. Our shared linkage with India has undoubtedly shaped our way of life, which is so strong that today I am proudly heading a delegation of almost 500 persons for this conference. The goodwill of India is present in the very heart and soul of each Mauritian, irrespective of his ethnic background. And I should say that the Indian diaspora at large is the largest and most probably one of the most successful diasporas in the world. And whether a person goes, wherever a person goes, it is undeniable that he brings and shares his culture with him. And even when he leaves the place, a part of his culture remains behind him and imbibed by other person. This is the case of Indian culture. The Indian culture is millennium. It's full of creativity, culturally rich, and focus on humanity. And this element of humanity rests on the principle of dharma. And Excellency, I've heard you talk about dharma, about values, about Ramayana. I'm myself a lover of Bhagwan Shri Ram. And when we're talking about dharma, when we're talking about Ramayana, we're referring during this plenary session to creativity. There's a movie very recently released by the name of Ram Setu. And when we talk about Ramayana, we talk about the Setu between India and Lanka, now known as Sri Lanka. One of the marvels, one of the biggest craftsmanship ever witnessed by humanity, that Setu that was built between India and Sri Lanka. But मेरा मानना है कि जो रिश्ता मॉरिशस और इंडिया के बीच में है, जरूर एक सेतु होगा. मॉरिशस और इंडिया के बीच एक सेतु होगा जो शायद invisible है, which makes our relationship so strong, so unique, so privileged that even the government of India has considered Mauritius to be on the table of the G20 summit this year. So thank you, India. And before concluding, please allow me to convey to the government and to the people of India the warmest regards of our Prime Minister, Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagannath, who he himself was the chief guest of the previous PPD 2019. And now bringing Mauritius to the table of the G20 is another sign of respect and consideration that India gives to Mauritius. And this bears testimony to the fact that India treats its diaspora as its own and as equals. Today, the relationship between our two prime ministers goes beyond the bound of diplomacy. It is friendly, it is brotherly. Therefore, brothers and sisters, please accept the love and friendship of our Prime Minister, Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagannath, and the love and friendship of the people of Mauritius. I thank you all for your attention. Jai Mauritius, Jai Hind.
We are seriously touched by your kind words, Honorable Minister. And after listening to you, I'm sure there is a Ram Setu kind of thing between India and Mauritius. And I could see and I could hear the thumping claps from the audience, from the Mauritius. And thanks a lot, Honorable Minister, for your kind and wonderful address. I'm sure the audience had an enlightening experience. Now we welcome our next speaker, Shri Advait Gannayak ji on the dais. He is the Director General, National Gallery for Modern Art, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. A postgraduate in Sculpture Slade School in Fine Arts, London, MFA in Sculpture, College of Art, and has also been the director of KIIT School of Fine Art, Orissa. He has received several prestigious awards: Scottish International Sculpture Award in 1996, National Award for Sculpture by National Lalit Kala Academy, State Award from Orissa Lalit Kala Academy. His exquisite works are showcased in National Police.
It's fine.
No, let the
Simple
audience
artist.
know that how great you are. Let me complete. Okay, fine. Please welcome Mr. Gannayak ji.
सबको प्रणाम, स्टेज को भूमिस्थ प्रणाम, आदरणीय मंत्री जी मीनाक्षी लेखी जी। शुरुआत से जैसे शुरू किए कि सारी सब चीज़ को लेके हम चलना है, और हमारा अभी मॉरिशस से भी बात हो रहा था किस तरीके की हम कंट्री का साथ भी रिलेशन। चल, मैं उड़ीसा से हूँ। जो श्रीलंका का बात हो रहा था, मेरा नाम जैसे गणनायक है, वहाँ श्रीलंका जाएंगे बंदर नायक, सेना नायक, सारी टाइटल भी ऐसा है। हम लोग जाके वहाँ सारे स्कल्पचर बनाए थे। तो पूरा ईस्ट एशिया में काफ़ी उड़ीसा का जो आर्टिस्ट है, कारीगर, जो क्राफ्ट जिसको बोलते हैं, ये लोग हर जगह में जाके काम किए थे। एक्चुअल मैं जब कोणार्क का बात अभी उड़ीसा से मैं शुरू करता हूँ, जो सॉफ्ट पावर का बात अभी हम कर रहे हैं, कि ताजमहल का भी बात करते हैं। छोटा सा एक मोन्यूमेंट पूरा सिटी को चलाता है। आप ताजमहल देखेंगे, उसका आसपास पूरा सिटी चलता है सिर्फ एक ताजमहल के लिए, और कुछ नहीं है। लेकिन कैसे तो चलता है सब कुछ सिस्टम। तो अंदर से जो एनर्जी, एक कोणार्क भी अभी देखेंगे कि पूरी कहाँ भी जो बड़े मोन्यूमेंट हमारा बनता था, वो अलग तरीका से बनता था। वो उसको आप देखेंगे ना, इसमें जो छोटे छोटे बात हम करते हैं उसको मैं क्राफ्ट लेवल में हम चले जाते हैं। मैं क्राफ्ट बोलना अच्छा नहीं लगता है। ये सारी इंडिजिनस आर्ट है। ये हमारी, उसको हम जातिवाद करके अलग कर दिए, क्योंकि जो कंटेम्प्रेरी आर्टिस्ट होता है उसका सिग्नेचर काउंट करता है, उसका करोड़ रुपया में सेल होता है। लेकिन गांव में जो कारीगर होता है, कि जो गॉन पेंटिंग करता है, कि पटा पेंटिंग करता है, वो भी कंटेम्प्रेरी स्टाइल में काम करता है। लेकिन उसको हम मानते नहीं, बोलते ये क्राफ्ट है। इसमें ठीक है, अरे कितना दिन काम किया? 2 दिन काम किया, अच्छा ठीक है। कितना मटेरियल? 200 रुपया, अच्छा ठीक है, 1000 रुपया होगा, ठीक है। मतलब इस तरह का हम ट्रीटमेंट करते हैं क्राफ्ट का साथ, क्राफ्ट बोल के उसका नाम भी क्राफ्ट देते हैं, और ट्रीटमेंट भी ऐसे करते हैं कि जैसे कि ये इंडिया का नहीं है, ये बाहर का लोग हमको बताए ये क्राफ्ट है, ये आर्ट है। लेकिन हमारी जो आप अजंता एलोरा का बात सुनेंगे, क्या कंटेम्प्रेरी आर्ट है, इस टाइम आप सोच भी नहीं सकते। बनाना तो भूल जाइए, जिसने इमेजिन किया, द वे ऑफ इमेजिनियरिंग इतना वास्ट है। अभी तो बोल रहे एलियन आके बनाया, हमने बनाया नहीं। डिस्कवरी चैनल में कभी कभी चर्चा भी होता है, मैंने देखा है कि जो अजंता एलोरा इतना इजी नहीं जो कैलाश टेम्पल बना। अरे कैसे वो सोचा है भाई, कहाँ से शुरू करेगा पत्थर, एक ही चट्टान में पूरा मंदिर बनाना, भाई कैसे उसका मन में आया, कैसे वो सोचा है भाई, किस तरीका उनका दिमाग था। वो जो कोणार्क का भी बात मैं कर रहा हूँ, वहाँ पर आप देखिए साइंस मर्ज हो रहे हैं, लिटरेचर मर्ज हो रहे हैं, वहाँ टाइम आपको पता चलेगा। कोणार्क व्हील जब देखेंगे ना, वहाँ आपको टाइम भी पता चल रहा था। वहाँ एक मैग्नेट फील्ड क्रिएट किए थे। तो हमारे जो आर्ट सिर्फ आर्टिस्ट ही काम नहीं कर रहा था, सोसाइटी में सब मिलके उसको तैयार कर रहे थे और एक मोन्यूमेंट का रूप देते थे। लेकिन अभी मोन्यूमेंट दुर्भाग्यवश सारे कुछ खराब हो रहे हैं, कि उसको मेंटेन करना भी बहुत मुश्किल है। इसलिए छोटे छोटे जगह में, कोई गांव से आया, कोई छोटे एरिया से भी, उड़ीसा में मैंने देखा है, भुवनेश्वर में हजारों टेम्पल है। तो वहाँ पर जहाँ भी देखेंगे टेम्पल है टेम्पल। हमारे जो म्यूजियम कल्चर हमारा कंट्री में नहीं है। हम तो जहाँ भी जाएंगे म्यूजियम देखेंगे। तो दूसरे कंट्री में ये सारी कुछ नहीं था। अब देखिए अमेरिका क्या 400 साल है ना, कितना दिन है, 4 साल क्या म्यूजियम बनाए, हजारों म्यूजियम बनाए। और कहाँ से लेके बनाए, किस तरह का बनाए, लेकिन हमारे पास सब कुछ है। हम इसको इस तरह का नज़रिया में देखते हैं कि वो क्राफ्ट नज़रिया में देखते हैं। सबसे दुख की बात वही है। मैं जब से भी मिनिस्ट्री में ज्वाइन किया था तब से भी हैमरिंग कर रहा हूँ, कभी मैं दोनों को चाहता हूँ शादी करा, प्यार कराने के लिए, कंटेम्प्रेरी आर्टिस्ट और ट्रेडिशनल आर्टिस्ट। मैं कलाकुंभ बनाया था, करीब हजारों आर्टिस्ट साथ में काम किए। वहाँ ट्रेडिशनल आर्टिस्ट, कंटेम्प्रेरी आर्टिस्ट, ट्राइबल आर्टिस्ट सब लोग आए और साथ मिलके खाए, साथ मिलके गाना गाए, साथ मिलके डांस किए, साथ मिलके पेंटिंग किए। क्या आना, एक बार बैठो ना साथ में, आप वो जो जातिवाद धीरे धीरे खत्म हो जाएगा। अभी इस तरीके हम जो पत्थर में भी काम करते हैं ना, शुरू शुरू में बहुत झगड़ा होता है, टेंशन होता है, ब्लीडिंग होता है, हैमरिंग होता है, कुछ टाइम के बाद कंप्रोमाइज करते हैं। उसका स्किन इतना सॉफ्ट हो जाता है कि आपका स्किन का साथ मर्ज हो जाता है। फिर दोस्ती शुरू होता है। जब दोस्ती हो जाता है ना, फिर आपके लिए वो मटेरियल नहीं रहता है, वो पत्थर आपको बताता है इसका अंदर क्या होगा। तो एक जो हमारा बिलीव है ना, बहुत पावरफुल बिलीव है। हम लोग बिलीव करते हैं पत्थर के अंदर कुछ भी चीज़ हम रखते हैं वो सुप्रीम पावर तक पहुंचा देता है। वो क्वालिटी उसका ऊपर है। हम उसको मांझना करते हैं, घी में, दूध में, क्या क्या आप सिबलिंग जाएंगे कहाँ भी, हम उसको मांझना करते हैं। मांझना मतलब एनर्जी ट्रांसफर करते हैं उसका अंदर, और वो एनर्जी फिर सुप्रीम पावर तक पहुंचता है। ये एक जो मंदिर भी जाते हैं ना, सामने एक बहुत बड़ा गेट होगा, आप ऐसे देखते हैं ना थोड़ा डर जाता है, अरे क्या इतना बड़ा है। आगे जाएंगे सभा मंडप, फिर और आगे जाएंगे नाट्य मंडप, लास्ट में गर्भगृह होता है। क्योंकि आप जो प्रोसेस में जा रहे हैं ना, जब देखते हैं ना, आप धीरे धीरे फिल्टर होते हैं और आपको टाइम मिलता है कि मेन स्टैचू का साथ आप डायलॉग कर सकते हैं। ये प्रोसेस ही हमारा आर्ट है। हम कभी सोचे नहीं है उसका यूज वाले आर्ट का, कभी सोचे नहीं है। मैं भी एनजीएम में काम करता था, जो इंडिया गेट में शाम को हजारों हजारों लोग आते हैं। मैंने काफ़ी भी बाजा बजाया, ये क्या सब कुछ क्या, हम आ जाओ भाई देखो, आटा बनाया, बाजा बजा के बोला, लेकिन वो पब्लिक के साथ कनेक्ट नहीं कर पाता है। क्योंकि पब्लिक का आर्ट अलग है, हम जो कंटेम्प्रेरी आर्ट अलग है, उसका साथ कनेक्शन नहीं होता है। वो कनेक्शन बहुत ज़रूरी है। और उसका हमेशा हम एक्सचेंज वैल्यू का बात करते हैं, कितना में सेल हुआ, करोड़ों रुपया में सेल हुआ, लेकिन उसका यूज वैल्यू कभी हम सोचते नहीं है। क्योंकि अभी भी हम जो बातचीत कर रहे हैं, जब हमको बातचीत करना भी नहीं आता था तो हम पत्थर पे थोड़ा लिख के जाते थे कि हम यहाँ शिकार करने के लिए जा रहे हैं। ये जो पेंटिंग हो, ड्राइंग हो, पोट्री हो, कुछ भी चीज़ है ना, ये हमारा इतिहास है। आज भी जो कर रहे हैं ना, हजारों साल का बाद ये इतिहास है। लेकिन उसी एंगल में हम सोचते नहीं है, क्योंकि उस टाइम 12-13 सेंचुरी का बाद हम लोग बहुत पीछे चले गए। मेरे ख्याल से जो मोनूमेंट बना 16 सेंचुरी में ताजमहल का बाद, इस तरह का बढ़िया मोनूमेंट भी हम नहीं बना पाए जो कि हम विश्व धरोहर में दिखा सकते। सब जो मिल जाते हैं ना, एक सुंदर रूप तैयार होता है। और उसमें मेरे को भी लगता है आर्टिस्ट वही कर सकता। आर्टिस्ट सोसाइटी को चेंज नहीं कर सकता, लेकिन एक एटमॉस्फेयर क्रिएट कर सकता, जो एटमॉस्फेयर कोई भी कॉन्सेप्ट, किसी भी कॉन्सेप्ट लेकर आए, वो रिजल्ट लेके पार होता था। वो आर्टिस्ट का, जब आप सोचिए इंडिपेंडेंस से पहले आप देखिए, वहाँ पर गुरुजी शांति निकेतन बना रहे हैं, वहाँ पर नंदलाल बोस, श्री अरविंदो, विवेकानंद, और ये लोग सारे बैठ के बात कर रहे हैं कि हमारी चीज़ को रिवाइव कैसे करेंगे, क्योंकि बोल रहे हम विदेशी कलर यूज नहीं करेंगे। क्या स्वाभिमान था आर्टिस्ट का। वो अवनींद्रनाथ टैगोर भारत माता बना रहे हैं, बंकिम चटर्जी वंदे मातरम लिख रहे हैं। एक एटमॉस्फेयर वो चेंज कर रहे थे, सब इसमें पार्ट हो। मेरे को अभी भी याद है, मैं जब गांव जाता था, जो लड़की का हमारा गांव में शादी होता था ना, पूरा गांव का शादी होता था। वहां पर कोई भी आर्टिस्ट, कोई पत्थर में, कोई मिट्टी में, कोई कपड़ा बनाता है, उसको पता है कौन सा कलर में कपड़ा में बनाऊं तो उसका शादी में लगेगा। कहां तक हम सोचते थे। अब इवेंट मैनेजमेंट गांव तक भी पहुंच गया, वो सिस्टम भी खत्म हो गया। शहर में का स्थिति ये है। अभी प्रधानमंत्री जी खेलो इंडिया बनाए, कितना अच्छा बनाए, आप लोग प्राइज लेकर आए ना। तो इस तरह का मेरे को लगता है कि आर्ट इंडिया होना चाहिए, वो छोटे छोटे जगह से शुरू होना चाहिए। अभी क्या हो रहे, हम बड़े बड़े शहर में बैठ के प्लान करते हैं और उसको गांव को भेजते हैं, वो लोग उल्टी करते हैं, डाइजेशन नहीं होता है। तो इसलिए छोटे छोटे चीज़ से हम शुरू करते हैं। अभी गांधी जी का बात भी मैं पढ़ रहा था, गांधी जी नंदलाल बोस को बता रहे हैं, आपको झाड़ू लगाना आता है? झाड़ू लगाते हैं तो कर्व में लगाते हैं ना स्ट्रेट में लगाते हैं? और पहले झाड़ के आगे लेते हैं ना बाद में झाड़ते हैं। इतने छोटी छोटी बात कैसे आर्टिस्ट का साथ डायलॉग हो रहा था, किस तरह का स्थिति था और देश में किस तरह का सोच था कि, क्योंकि देखिए सरकार तो ऐसे चलता है, ब्यूरोक्रेट हो पॉलिटिशियन हो सरकार चलता है, लेकिन सोसाइटी को आर्टिस्ट चलाता है। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, Mr. Gurnaik, for such a beautiful, sensitive approach. And thank you for sharing your ongoing journey and giving wonderful suggestions. To take the discussion further, we have Ms. Meera Ravi on the dais. She represents Bahrain, a third-generation writer and journalist since 1982 with early 4 decades of experience in covering Middle Eastern news affairs. Currently, she is the editor of Salam Bahrain, a much-loved Asian diaspora magazine. Prior to that, she has worked as Bahrain correspondent for the UAE-based Gulf News and the Khalij Times, and as news editor and special correspondent for the Bahrain Tribune newspaper. We warmly welcome Ms. Meera Ravi on the dais, and we would love to listen of her take. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Minister Meenakshi Lekhi, Honorable Minister Tilak from Mauritius, my distinguished fellow panelists, and equally distinguished audience. It gives me great pleasure to represent the Bahrain diaspora here and talk to you about how we in Bahrain are looking at leveraging the soft power of India on the global stage, and also what more can be done going forward, because I think it is very important to focus on the future as well. Before I get into the heart of my talk, let me share a real incident with you. A Bahraini friend had gone to France on a cultural exchange program. And one day she was asked to share a typical Bahraini meal with her French landlady. Now, my friend was a kitchen novice and didn't know anything about cooking, so she asked her mother for the simplest Bahraini recipe and prepared it. It wasn't the machbouz, the fish and rice dish that Bahrain is so famous for, but the one dish that every Bahraini household eats every day, dal and chapati. Now, it is this kind of exchange of culinary heritage that brings us so much closer between the Bahrainis and the Indians. We share so much. We share the biryani. The Bahrainis have several types of dal that they eat at different times of the day. They even have their own version of the garam masala, a mix of spices very similar to ours, which they call baharat. Of course, the Bahrainis also have their own Arabian, Persian, and regional culinary heritage, and they're very proud of it. But at every corner, you will see a warm culinary hug from India, bringing you closer to their culture. And that is what Indian soft power is about. But ladies and gentlemen, before you decide that cuisine is a soft power, let us remember that it was the search for Indian spices that fueled the search for a route to India, brought people from the Arab world as well as Europe to India, and in the process, it started a thrilling exchange of scientific ideas, spiritual ideas, and art between the peoples of the world. And all this because they came to India looking for spices. That soft power spun off a huge search for more things. Now, when it comes to Indian crafts, for example, again, I would like to tell you that this is not just a pretty face. Indian crafts is a huge multi-million-dollar industry. I have it on good authority that this sector generated exports valued at $4.35 billion US dollars during 2021-22. Indian craftsmen as well as designers who go to colleges and come up with beautiful ideas to reorganize the aesthetics of crafts have made more than 6 million people, traditional artisans as well as new contemporary designers, empowered and employed in this sector. In addition, the handloom sector employs nearly 5 million people. I would say this is more than soft power. This is a very strong power. In the 21st century, what have we done? We have taken this, and thousands of entrepreneurs and artisans have taken to e-commerce platforms or even just to WhatsApp emporia to directly sell their wares and carefully curated collections and spread knowledge of Indian crafts throughout the world. In Bahrain, we have often showcased Indian crafts through the presence of award-winning craftspeople at local events, and it has taught us that the power to showcase Indian crafts lies in our hands. Ladies and gentlemen, each one of us in this room is an influencer. We are patrons of art. We are all here, and I see that most of us in the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas are using this occasion to explore the arts and crafts of our country. So we clearly love beautiful Indian crafts and we know about it. Why not take it one step further and organize ourselves so that we empower other people with the knowledge of Indian crafts as well? There is no platform too small. It could be a local church fete, it could be your school fundraiser, or it could just be a buyer-seller mela during Christmas time. But if you were to put Indian crafts center stage, and I'm sure that the Honorable Minister will be only too happy to give us ideas, and her ministry will help us also, we will be able to spread the word of Indian crafts everywhere. Now, coming to today's topic, leveraging the soft power of India. We have been talking thus far about what this soft power is, but how do we leverage it? I would personally say that there are perhaps 4 main goals that we have to keep in mind to take forward India's soft power. The first one, and I'm speaking from our experience in Bahrain and the Gulf mainly, the first one is actually to take Indian soft power and performance arts out of the ghetto. What I mean is that in Bahrain, for example, there are 450,000 Indians almost, and they have spun out into more than 100 clubs which bring regional as well as pan-Indian entertainment to Bahrain. However, most of the people who come and enjoy these arts or these entertainment shows are Indians themselves. Very rarely do we have a small number of Bahrainis who come. This means that the bulk of our energy, the bulk of our sponsorships, the bulk of our money goes towards promoting India for Indians. Now, that is not something that we should be doing. We should be promoting India for the rest of the world. That's one way to leverage the soft power. The other thing that I would like to recommend, and I'm sure that all of you who are from abroad will agree with me, is that India has gone so far ahead in terms of trends. You know, all of us, when we do programs, we are sticking to a tried and tested template that India has left far behind. That is a lazy option and we shouldn't be doing it. We should actually be on trend and make sure that whether it is cuisine, we have so many nouvelle cuisine experts in India, whether it's film or whether it's literature or the crafts and performing arts, we know what is happening in India so that we can take that fresh and contemporary mood of traditional India to the world. The next thing I want to say is, why should we just stick to mainstream? Why not explore regional? We have all come to Indore. For me at least, it is the first time, as it is for many of us, and I'm simply stunned at the variety and beauty of this city, as well as the foods that are here and the fabrics that we can get. So we should be exploring regional arts and crafts and taking that to the world. Everybody knew at one point that Bollywood was the hit of the world. That is giving way, unfortunately, now to the Korean Hallyu wave. Why is that happening? Because we are not giving variety. Why should we have just a Tyagaraja Aradhana? Why not a Christmas carol in various Indian languages? Why not regional Indian cinema being promoted more? We should be able to do all that, and I'm sure our Honorable Minister will be listening to us and helping us to take this forward as well. She has come, Minister, if you remember, and I would like to remind you, she has come to Bahrain for a book festival, and there we did promote regional literature, and she most graciously presided over it. So I know that that potential is there in the ministry to do that. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, if you were here this morning and you had heard the President of Guyana, he was very forthcoming in saying that his country would like to support the propagation of Indian culture. That is something that we should be doing. We are in a position where we have the ICCR and its beautiful list of artists whom we can tap for performances and for teaching workshops and for many other things as resources. Why not meet them halfway and go into partnership and bring them to our host countries and share it with the people of the host country as Indian soft power? It is not important to have a university degree every time you have something that you want to share about India. You can just explore it as a hobby. Sometimes that lasts much longer than a formal study. When we do all these things, we will find that leveraging Indian soft power for the future is much easier and far more effective, and will probably leave us with more lasting results. Jai Hind, Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Ms. Meera. Taking the discussion further, I would like to invite Hamisha on the dais. She's from Nigeria, a film producer, director, entrepreneur, and a motivational speaker. We welcome Hamisha.
Namaste, everybody. I'm very excited to be here representing my country, Nigeria and India. So I'm actually going to talk to you today about one of India's biggest cultural exports, Bollywood. It was just mentioned just now. And actually, Bollywood is a big impact in my country, Nigeria. I don't know if anybody here has heard of the industry Nollywood. Can I have a show of hands? Have anybody heard Nollywood? Shout out to Nollywood. It's the Nigerian film industry. And what's very interesting about the Nigerian film industry is the impact Bollywood has had on it. So back in the day, 1960s, some Indian movies were imported into Nigeria, and it was an instant hit. So today, if you come visit Lagos, where I live, every second household knows who Amitabh Bachchan is, who knows Hema Malini, who knows Shami Kapoor, sometimes even more than me, and I've grown up in an Indian household. So that's very exciting for us, because if you go to a grocery store, if you go to a hair salon, you'll see ZTV. running in the background. You'll see Sony TV, linear TV is huge there. And what happens is they actually dub it in English, but the accent is different. So I've lived in Nigeria my whole life. I've been a businesswoman there. I ran restaurants for 7 years. After I sold my restaurant, it left me free to follow my big dream. As mentioned earlier, I'm also a motivational speaker. So I love telling people, go after your dreams. And one of my biggest dreams was entering the film industry. So I decided to merge the two industries. That's Bollywood and Nollywood. And I wondered why no one had done it before, because they're the two biggest in the world in terms of volume output. We have Bollywood, which is #1, and Nollywood, which is #2. Now, Nollywood is still a growing industry. We're sort of catching up with Bollywood, I feel. And so that is how it impacted me, because I decided to go ahead and just make a movie. I decided to follow my dreams, and that's what created Namaste Wahala. Namaste Wahala translates to hello trouble. And trouble it was, but it was like very, very good trouble. And the minute that we dropped that poster, we made the movie, we did not finish it because as life happens, COVID happened. So we paused, and as in how we started living at home, we started doing post-production virtually. We realized that me sitting in Lagos, Nigeria, and my post-production company in Mumbai, there was a way for us to connect. So we connected through the lockdown, and we finished the movie. Now, the cinemas were shut in the world. However, Netflix landed in Nigeria at the same time. And as luck would have it, they decided to go and buy the movie, and we released on Valentine's Day 2021. Overnight, it became the 6th best movie in the world. We were trending in the US, we were trending in the UK, and we were trending in India. And this is the first time Nollywood has done that. So to me, that just shows you the impact of what Bollywood did for us. And I'm very, very excited to announce today that I have actually brought Nollywood to India. So as of day after tomorrow, some of the biggest actors from Nollywood are landing in Mumbai, and we are actually making an Indian web series based in Mumbai. So we have a hashtag, it's Nollywood Goes to India. And I'm just very excited to see where this goes, because one of the most important things I like to tell people, and it's very cliche, it's the message I think we all know, is we are all one. You know, we may look different, we have different reactions. If any of you have seen my movie, Namaste Wahala, there was an Indian guy and a Nigerian woman, and of course we showed the different culture. You know, we have different food, we have different ethics. However, one of the major things we saw in the movie was the similarity with the reactions of the parents. So both cultures respect elders, both cultures love food, both cultures love fashion, both cultures love love. So when you realize later that we may be different, we're actually the same. You know, we think the same, we love the same, we connect the same. And if we continue down that trajectory, we'll only get better. So one of my favorite mottos is, together we are better. So I'm very, very excited to be here, and I hope all of you will follow us as we take this journey of Nollywood going to India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hamisha. And we are looking forward to this web series which you're making in Mumbai. Now we would like to welcome Sheshi Nag. And she's a choreographer, producer, and dance artist, born in India in a family of musicians and academicians. Miss Nag.
धाते टे धाते टे धा धाते टे कर धाते टे धाके देगी ना धुन धुन ना गना गा धुना कृतक धागे ना देगी ना घेन राण धा देता कृतक धेता कहता घेगे ता के गा धान 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 धा कहता घेगे ता के गे धान 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 धा कहता घेगे ता के गे धान 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 धा. हमने सोचा कि इतनी बातें हम कर रहे हैं अंग्रेज़ी भाषा में, हिंदी भाषा में, थोड़ी कथक की ज़बानी भी हो जाए तो देखते हैं कैसा लगता है आप लोगों को. मंच में विराजमान श्रीमती अति आदरणीय श्रीमती मीनाक्षी लेखी जी, मॉरिशस के मिनिस्टर मिस्टर तिलक, सभागार में बैठे मंत्रिमंडल, सारे सरकारी अधिकारियों, सभी देवी और सज्जनों को मेरा नमस्ते प्रणाम. मध्य प्रदेश की देवी अहिल्याबाई होलकर की इस पवित्र भूमि में भारतीय प्रवासी दिवस मनाया जा रहा है और हम प्रवासियों को अति सम्मानित रूप से आमंत्रित किया गया है। सर्वप्रथम मैं हमारे भारत सरकार को, मध्य प्रदेश की सरकार को, ICCR को, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स को और इंडियन एम्बेसी ऑफ स्पेन को धन्यवाद बोलना चाहूँगी और सारे इंदौर के वासियों जो इस दिवस को सफल करने में शामिल रहे उन सबको मेरा हार्दिक धन्यवाद। My name is Shrey Shinag. I am originally from Kolkata, but for the past 20 years I've been living in Spain. I come from the engineering sector, but currently I'm living my dream, my passion converted into my profession. I run a India Center in Spain, and the purpose of this center is we try our best to make sure that every Spanish person has the right image about India, to maximize the knowledge pool about India in Spain. We power softly. We carry out different events such as Indian classical dance performances, Indian classical dance workshops, conferences with respect to, thinking Tagore, thoughts of Gandhi's and its relevance in Europe today. We often bring in the communities like Spanish and Indian communities together and celebrate our festivals like Diwali, Hindi Divas. And we also do networking to bring the Spanish and the Indian companies together to create more business opportunities between Spain and India. So today, I wanted to specifically talk about how Indian classical dance is actually creating affinity, strong affinity towards our Indian culture. So to begin with this, I need to first explain a little bit what we understand as Indian culture. So Indian culture is basically a heritage of so many things. It's such a broad term. We talk about our values, our ethical values, our social norms, and then the history of India, the mythological aspects, the political aspects, the sociological aspects, languages, it just goes on and on. Now, when we look at Indian classical dance, and we look into it profoundly, we will see that it's a very holistic approach in understanding body language. So an Indian classical dancer, it's not just that she has to learn how to dance well, but she has to be able to have a fairly good amount of information about the history of India, about the mythological aspects, the cultural aspects, the social aspects. She even has to know different languages. For instance, a dance like Kathak, which is what I train in, it used to be a folk dance. It traveled to the temples of India. Then it went to the Mughal courts. And it has incorporated so many languages like Sanskrit, Hindi, Urdu, even Persian. So imagine what a Kathak dancer has to know. She has to know all of this to be able to justify performing one Kathak dance. So when you do an Indian classical dance performance, I think it's an act of responsibility because you are really, really bringing up a small piece of strong Indian culture to the audience, especially abroad. So having said this, I like to also draw the attention to the fact that corporate and culture go side by side. I've been here in this beautiful seminar, and everyone seemed, as I discuss with many people, I always have the feeling that we always kind of separate corporate from culture, no? But I totally disagree. I think it's always C to C. Kathak dancer, especially living in Europe, she has to know how a grand commission works, will she be able to produce her work in the important dance festivals of Spain. So it's actually like any business unit with a huge creative backup, and therefore it's even more complex than any other business unit, I would say. One more interesting fact is that in Spain, or even in Europe, people love Indian classical dance. We all know that. However, even if they love the dance, they might not always be able to relate to it. What I mean to say is that when they don't relate to it, we become a sweet dish. We're no more the main course, but we want to be the main course. We want to be in the mainstream of the dance forms in Europe. Just like India today is in the hub, in the heart of science and technology, setting examples in the world, Indian dance forms should also be in the mainstream dance forms of Europe and not just in the periphery. As I said, we want to do the main course. So what do we have to do in order to achieve this? There is a whole lot of creative process. One example I would like to give, and very humbly and very happily to say that one of my productions called The Above, it's in 10 major dance festivals in Spain currently, touring. And the only reason is because it has been actually packaged as a contemporary dance, but if you actually watch it, it has strong Indian classical dance languages. But because it has a contemporary packaging, the Spanish people are able to relate to it, and therefore I'm able to perform in big dance festivals, and it's packaged as Above Spain, India, and that's a matter of great pride. I think we're the only Indian-Spanish company who is in the mainstream of Spanish European dances. I would also like to say my thanks to ICCR and Indian Ministry of Culture, who have been helping us with a lot of projects, a lot of some grants. Having said that, I think we need to be empowered slightly, a little more, Madam Meenakshi ji. And if we are empowered more, we were able to create much more impact in a shorter time, in a more sustainable manner. We've even started introducing yoga and classical dance in schools and colleges of Spain. And it's obviously, we all know the benefits of Indian classical dance and how it can bring in a mind-body balance, the right focus for children, but also it gives us a huge opportunity to introduce India culture at a very young age in Europe. So, having said all this, I would like to say that without culture, there is no identity of any nation. And I think India's identity has to be built in Europe and Spain through culture. That's the first step. I thank you very much for coming here, for listening to me. And I hope that we take this ahead. We would love to collaborate with people from all across Europe. We actually do that. And we also collaborate with schools and colleges and think tanks from Argentina, Bolivia, Peru, and all across Europe. So anyone who's interested to work with us in the future, please do come and have a word with me. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for making this session so rhythmic and musical. Thank you so much. Our last speaker is Mr. Suman. I would like to invite Mr. Suman on the dais, who is from Nepal, a prolific artist, writer, painter, and an art critic. Please welcome Mr. Suman. After this, we'll have a question and answer round, and we'll be asking the questions from the audience, and please feel free to ask from Ma'am Minister or from any of the speakers, and Honorable Minister from Mauritius as well, just after Mr. Suman.
नमस्कार, सुंदर परिचय के लिए धन्यवाद। अच्छा लग रहा है, आज कुछ बातें हिंदी में हो रही है। मैं स्मरण करना चाहता हूँ 60 के दशक में नेपाल में हिंदी अगुवाई के आंदोलन में मेरे परिवारजनों की अगुवाई में हिंदी आंदोलन हुआ था। इसके कारण मैं स्कूल में हिंदी पढ़ पाया। नेपाल में सरकारी आंकड़ा के अनुसार 123 भाषाएं बोली जाती हैं। सबसे पहले हम मातृभाषा मैथिली बोलते हैं, जो मेरी मातृभाषा है। दूसरे नंबर पे हम लोग राष्ट्रभाषा हिंदी बोलते हैं। तीसरे नंबर पे संपर्क भाषा हिंदी बोलते हैं, और चौथे नंबर पे हम लोग अन्य भाषा अंग्रेजी का प्रयोग करते हैं। और पुनः मैं स्मरण करना चाहता हूँ, जब हमारे भारतीय माननीय प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी नेपाल यात्रा पे गए थे, तो हमारी संसद को हिंदी में संबोधन किया था, जिससे हमें आत्मीयता और अपनापन महसूस कराया था। माननीय मंत्री जी, उपस्थित संगोष्ठी के प्रतिभागियों, सभागार में उपस्थित प्रतिष्ठित मान्यवर, भारत की सॉफ्ट पावर का लाभ उठाएं, शिल्प व्यंजन और रचनात्मकता के माध्यम से सद्भाव पर बोलने के लिए आमंत्रित करने जाने पर मैं सम्मानित महसूस कर रहा हूँ। आज के जनसंचार, वैश्विक व्यापार और पर्यटन के युग में विश्व के विभिन्न देश की विदेश नीति में सॉफ्ट पावर की अवधारणा ने एक विशेष स्थान प्राप्त कर लिया है। पारंपरिक और समकालीन दोनों की सॉफ्ट पावर की संपत्तियों की व्यापक उपयोग राजनीतिक विशेषज्ञों द्वारा इस अवधारणा को प्रतिपादित करने के समय से ही भारत अपने बौद्धिक और सांस्कृतिक शक्ति अर्थात सॉफ्ट पावर का प्रयोग करता आ रहा है। निश्चित रूप से भारतीय सॉफ्ट पावर दक्षिण एशिया में पहले स्थान पे है और इसे रणनीतिक उपकरणों के रूप में उपयोग करने में सक्षम है। शिल्प के लिए ग्लोबल हब के रूप में भारत दुनिया का एकमात्र ऐसा देश है जिसे शिल्प, जातीय और सांस्कृतिक विविधता की जीवंत परंपरा दुनिया के लिए एक बड़ा उपहार है, जो आज इस सांस्कृतिक अर्थव्यवस्था के आधार बनाता है। भारतीय सांस्कृतिक विरासत और ज्ञान इसके लिए एक जिम्मेदार आर्थिक और सॉफ्ट पावर बनाने का मार्ग रोशन करता है। देश के कोने कोने में विभिन्न शिल्प कला के रूपों में विविधता अद्वितीय है। लकड़ी का काम, मूर्ति कला, धातु, लकड़ी या पत्थर से बनी कलाकृतियाँ और वस्त्र पर उत्कृष्ट प्रिंट की अपने आप में अद्वितीय हैं। लोक चित्रकला मानव सभ्यता की एक प्रमुख अभिव्यक्ति है, जिसके माध्यम से मनुष्य अपने भावनाओं को व्यक्त करता है। पटचित्र, तंजोरी पेंटिंग, महाराष्ट्र और गुजरात की वर्ली, मध्य प्रदेश की गोंड आर्ट, बिहार की मधुबनी और नेपाल की मिथिला पेंटिंग भारतीय त्योहारों की ज्यामितीय संरचना और संबंधित अनुष्ठानों के प्रतिनिधित्व के लिए विश्व प्रसिद्ध है। रचनात्मकता के माध्यम से सद्भाव हम अब कैसे बढ़ाएं, जो आज का मुख्य मुद्दा है। शिल्प और व्यंजन में रचनात्मकता का मूल्य निर्माण, खोज और परंपराएं, परिवर्तन और नवीनता के साथ फिर से जुड़ने के बारे में जो हमें प्यार और सद्भाव सिखाती है। सॉफ्ट पावर कूटनीति की दिशा में भारत के प्रयास हाल के दिनों में सरकार ने विभिन्न देश और मौजूद भारतीय प्रवासियों से जुड़ने के लिए कई महत्वपूर्ण कदम उठाए हैं, जो स्वागत योग्य है। यह भारत के लिए गर्व की बात है। सरकार ने योग को वैश्विक पटल पे भारतीय विरासत के रूप में पेश करने में सफल रही है, जिसे संयुक्त राष्ट्र यूएन ने भारत सरकार के अनुरोध पे 21 जून को अंतर्राष्ट्रीय योग दिवस के रूप में मान्यता दी है। बौद्ध धर्म पूर्वी एशियाई और दक्षिण पूर्व एशियाई देशों को जोड़ने की महत्वपूर्ण कड़ी है। देश में बौद्ध धर्म से जुड़े पर्यटन को बढ़ावा देने के लिए सरकार ने कदम उठाया है। रामायण सर्किट, जिसका उल्लेख आज माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने किया था, रामायण सर्किट, बौद्ध सर्किट, जैन सर्किट के विकास की भी घोषणा की है। इस सिद्धांत के अनुसार भारत अन्य एशियाई देशों जैसे मालदीव, बांग्लादेश, नेपाल, श्रीलंका और भूटान आदि के साथ साथ दक्षिण एशिया में का सबसे बड़ा देश है। स्वयं एक नेपाली मिथिला चित्रकार होने के नाते मैं आप सभी के साथ सॉफ्ट पावर के अपने व्यवहारिक अनुभव को साझा करना चाहता हूँ। हम पद्मश्री गंगा देवी, पद्मश्री सीता देवी, जगदम्बा देवी जैसे चित्रकारों के विरासत से आते हैं, जिन्होंने कला के माध्यम से मिथिला को पुनः नई पहचान दिलाई। मुझे लगता है कि सॉफ्ट पावर भारत और नेपाल के लोगों को एक ही धुन में नचाती है, एक ही आवाज़ के स्वर में पंक्तियों का पाठ कराती है, एक तरह से विराम लेती है, एक ही इरादा से संदेश देती है। हम भगवान सूर्य और चंद्रमा को साथ साथ प्रणाम करते हैं, इसी तरह जब पेंट करने के लिए मैं बैठता हूँ तो रूप में रंग और रेखाओं की मिथिला दुनिया में मेरे सामने प्रकट होती है, जो माँ जानकी से जुड़ती है। मुझे लगता है कि मैं इस उपमहाद्वीप में सॉफ्ट पावर के सामूहिक ऋषि में प्रवेश करता हूँ, जहाँ मुझे ज्ञान बौद्धिक की गहराइयों में ले जाता है। गहराई से मेरा मानना है कि इस महाद्वीप में मेरे जैसे लाखों खोजकर्ता हैं। मुख्य रूप से नेपाल और भारत में जो महाभारत, वेद, उपनिषद और पुराणों में व्यक्त रचनात्मक शक्ति की अदृश्य लेकिन बहुत व्यापक दुनिया में डुबकी लगाते हैं। वास्तव में मैं उन साधकों और कलाकारों के विरासत से ताल्लुक़ रखता हूँ जो नेपाल और भारत की सॉफ्ट पावर के सागर को साकार करने के लिए संघर्षरत हैं। मेरा मानना है भारत को तेजी से बढ़ती बहुध्रुवीय विश्व व्यवस्था में खुद को स्थापित करने की जरूरत है। इसीलिए जरूरी है कि भारत अपने वैदेशिक नीति में सॉफ्ट पावर रखने के लिए स्मार्ट पावर का इस्तेमाल वैश्विक दुनिया में अपनी नई पहचान बनाए। भारत को अपनी बढ़ती हुई ध्रुवीय विश्व व्यवस्था में स्थापित करना है। इस मंच से मुझे अपना विचार साझा करने का अवसर देने के लिए और आमंत्रण करने के लिए मैं आयोजक कमेटी को धन्यवाद तथा आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। धन्यवाद। जय नेपाल, जय हिंद।
Thank you so much, Mr. Suman. Thank you so much. After listening to such marvelous speakers, I'm sure the audience would certainly be charged and enlightened. We'll be glad to request the audience, if you have some questions from Honorable Minister or from the speakers, there is just one request that please be crisp and short. It has to be a question, not a narrative, please. Please pass on the mic.
Yeah, namaskar.
One by one.
Hello?
Let him, here's the mic. After that, you can speak, please.
Namaskar. I'm Dr. Gyaneshwar Singh Goodwill. I'm basically a Ayurvedic super specialist, PhD from Mauritius. We are having our organization Medha Yogpit, which is promoting Ayurveda and yoga. We have made a program of just like Ayurveda yoga, but in a very soft way, in 4 aspects, having 68 fundamentals.
Please put the mic a little closer to yourself so that we can hear you clearly.
We have made a soft program of training Ayurveda and yoga into 68 fundamentals. Just like a car, you have parts, you do servicing each one in one. Like this, Ayu in our body, Sharir, Indriya, Man, Atma, we have broken it and make it 68 parts. And we say do servicing in these 68 parts. So your whole body Ayu is energized and you get more capacity to resist national disease. This is one thing. Madam, I have a question to you. This is a bhumika of what I'm telling. I have a question to you. If you can kindly coordinate, because we have already sent letter to the Ministry of Ayush, to the Ministry of External Affairs. If you can help us so that this soft power, you know, Ayurveda is very big, but how to bring it in simple way, in simple language to people, you need mechanism. We have the soft mechanism in short way, how to train people and understand Ayu and bring vitality in our body. I'm just requesting to you if you can because I see a lot of blockage from Mauritius to embassy and then to there. Everybody is doing their part, I'm not telling no, but still there are blockages. Right now, if you can give us a commitment, at least we can have a dialogue. I'm not telling to do, we have a dialogue. So that this soft understanding in 68 fundamental mechanism. We're not teaching everything, but 68 small things. If we can just have a round table with Ministry of Ayush, External Affairs, the embassy is already here. I don't mind the government also want to, but it's an NGO activity. If they want to join, it's very good. We can have a dialogue.
Thank you so much. Let's be short and crisp because we are short of time, please.
Thank you very much. This is not a question. This is more in the nature of a suggestion. I take your suggestion very kindly. I can see the ambassador here. We will be in touch and we will arrange one such conference, which could be a mix of virtual and real-time conference so we can connect the experts of two countries. We'll do that.
A specific question to Meenakshi ji and panel regarding the soft power. We have lived and worked in UK for 26 years. There are plenty of British councils and cultural offices, Alliance Francaise in even small cities of India. But in UK, which is one of the biggest Indian centers, there is only one Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan in London, which is funded by ICCR. To spread the India's soft power, we need a strategy and execution of the strategy. My question is, why doesn't the Culture Ministry and Foreign Ministry come together and identify cities like Leicester, Manchester, Birmingham, etc., to create similar cultural centers which can be a power hub for many other things in other countries, USA, Australia as well, not just in the capital or the main city. We need to go beyond that, and that's my request and question both. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is again in the nature of suggestion. I take your suggestion well. And you must understand that to run any cultural center, it requires a lot of funding and commitment to funds. So depending on the funds available, we'll look into it and you'll get to know. I can't commit offhand.
Hello. Yeah, hello. Hello. Yes, this is Dr. Verma from Mauritius. I would like to ask Ms. Nag a specific question. Are you aware that all these classical dances come direct from God?
I couldn't get the last word.
Are you aware that all these classical dances, dance forms, Indian classical dance, they come directly from God?
Of course, they are Hindu dance. Of course, they are born in the temples of India, definitely. What's your question, sir?
No, I'm asking you this question. Anyway, I tell you why I'm asking this question, because I am from Mauritius. I am a member of the Lord V.C. Ashram. Our guru, Yogini Shubhvij, passed away on the 8th of August, and her body stayed intact for the next 21 days until she was buried. And I have witnessed myself when she used to do Siddh meditation, and people who were initiated by her, they used to spontaneously dance. People who don't know anything about classical dance, they used to go into trance and dance classical, beautiful classical dances, Bharatnatyam and all these type of things. And this, I would like to ask you that if you are aware of that.
Yeah, I really understand what you're getting at, and I think it's a beautiful idea to put light upon. In the sense, obviously, Indian classical dances originated in the temples, and one of the main purpose was to please the gods and not entertainment. That is for sure. However, when we are working in Europe, in order to create a bigger impact, sometimes we need to be a little away from strong religious contacts. We cannot always impose saying that, this is a dance of the gods. So we have to create a balance out there, to make sure that, European dancers are also dancing Indian classical dances today. But obviously, deep inside, it is a dance that was born to please the gods, and many of us who are believers, when we dance, we obviously believe in that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
No, I would just add on to what Ms. Nag has just said. So what I'm reminded of is that this person should be in the audience somewhere. We have Dr. Archana. Is she here? From Geneva? Yeah, she's there. So there's a very renowned scientist here who's working at CERN. And in CERN, they have placed the statue of Lord Shiva, a bronze of Lord Shiva.
Yeah,
and underneath there's a plaque which is by Dr. Fraser Opa, and that says that the cosmic dance was depicted by Indian artisans way back so many thousand years in the form of representation of Lord Nataraj. Today, with the scientists and academicians, we are still trying to understand that dynamic cosmic dance with the same. So ultimate aim of humanity remains the search for truth. And the search for truth, when you say dance, dance is another one format. If because if you're asking a historicity of dance, I must say that in Indian system, if somebody wanted to learn dance, that person will be told that please don't come to my class for learning dance, go to a sculptor. And when you go to a sculptor that, okay, I want to learn dance, show me the mudras and the forms, that person will be told, no, 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 don't come to me. Go and work in the field, observe the nature, see how people work, and then probably you come back and learn dance. Yes, so dance form itself is so much of observation. There's one saying, if I can quote, and if I'm hopefully quoting it right, it says, so Bharat Muni is the first one who wrote about the dance, the Nritya Shastra, Natya Shastra, Nritya Shastra and all that. And then subsequently Abhinav Gupta, which is also, the timeline is something like 2 CE. At that point in time, he wrote a treatise on Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra. So imagine the concept that India is one country which has so many classical dance forms, one country which has 2 classical music forms, and there it says, Vadyam, Nrityam, Geetam cha Sangeetam uchyate, which means Vadya Yantra, Gana, song, and the dance together is what forms Sangeet. And if you go back to the Natya Shastra and that treatise you read, they even have that cost of the production will be so much, the music will be so much, the makeup is going to be so much. It is a very detailed work, and fortunately the Greeks and the others learned from us. While the world is celebrating Greek artistry, people have forgotten what Natya Shastra is and what Abhinav Gupta wrote about. So I think it's time to reclaim what is ours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Because in fact, Minister Tilak is well aware of the miracle which happened in Mauritius. Our guru who passed away on the 8th of August, and her body was lying intact in normal temperature for 20 days until we buried her on the 27th of August. Mr. Tilak is well aware of it. So we are trying to make it into national heritage. The Mahasamaji want to make it into a national heritage site. Thank you very much. I get that. I just want you to speak about it.
Yeah, I can see one of the audience raising their hand for the question, please.
Good evening, honorable speakers. My name is Tejaswi from JSS Private School, Dubai. So my question is in regards to the soft power of India. So in a world where Western culture is so prominent, and India's culture, which is one of the most ancient cultures in the world, what are some ways you think that we as diaspora can keep our culture and heritage relevant in a culturally Western dominant world?
I think every speaker should give their comment. And because this is a struggle, and I sometimes say, not to be cited, but I say, if India continues to grow at 9% GDP every year for next 10 years, this problem will be sorted. Because half the time, the struggle is not just the struggle of dominance, but economy is one very big dominant factor. And that creates the demand, and once the demand is created, so comes the services and products. And products, if I may use the word product, I'm sure the artists here on the dais and otherwise will not mind my using this word, but if the product is the creativity, if the product is the craft and the art of India, then that product needs to be taken or scaled up like an entrepreneurial level, and we need to learn to sell it to the world and showcase it in that manner. I mean, all the branded things which people end up buying, you'll be surprised, a whole lot of them are created in India, and it's the Indian craftsmanship, but the branding is somebody else's. Whether it's some of the branded bags which have embroideries from India, or the leather from India. some of the dresses, the gowns which you see so many celebrities wear, the craft will be Indian, but the branding is somebody else's. So entrepreneurial aspect of all of you sitting in the audience needs to be hiked up so that you know how to brand India and rebrand India to scale it up to that level, and don't sell it cheap. Please, you have to learn to make it expensive.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
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 I have a question. Minister Avinash, you very nicely described that there is this invisible setu. Actually, the question is for Meenakshi ji. There is this invisible setu between India and Mauritius, and then you went on to talk about the prevalence of some Bhojpuri-related culture. The question is for Meenakshi ji. The question is that Meenakshi ji, as you would rightly know, Bhojpuri is a language that is not only just spoken in many parts of India, not just in Mauritius, but also in many countries from where we have delegates today, whether it is Fiji, Suriname, Guyana, even Netherlands. Actually, a lot of people had shifted from Suriname to Netherlands, and that's why there is some people, in fact, a large number of people who speak Bhojpuri. So the question is, to keep it crisp, is the government of India, especially because you're also the Minister of External Affairs for State and also Culture, is the government of India looking at promoting Bhojpuri to build more invisible setus between such countries? Thank you.
So I heard about Nollywood and also Bollywood. So Bhojpuri also has become a film space in itself. And Bhojpuri film circuit is very, very big in India. And I'm sure the Suriname, Mauritius share the same ethos. I can't name Ravi Kishan and other such people who are stars, Manoj being the other one. So they are all stars here, and they are very well appreciated outside the country because Bhojpuri is a very appreciated language. But when it comes to government's effort, government keeps promoting, and India being as wide as it is, the depth of every culture will have to take its own dip. And country and the ministry, by and large, the government of India, promotes everything else. I can't just focus on one dialect of the language because there are so many other dialects of the same language. So Hindi can be spoken by maybe 20 or more such dialects, or 200 dialects for that matter. So each dialect as a government, you have to promote all. So Bhojpuri is one of them, but not exclusively.
If I may add a couple of thoughts on this question. This is the second question that goes along the same line of having either a cultural center in their own jurisdiction, or how to promote tradition or language, for instance, as you said, Bhojpuri, in your own country. You would need to understand that we as diaspora, we have a shared responsibility. There are certain things that the government of India or India can do, but there is this part of responsibility we will have to assume, we will have to undertake certain initiatives. If I take the example of Mauritius, and as I mentioned in my speech, we have taken up the leadership to set up cultural centers on our own, in our own country, promoting Indian culture, independently of what the government of India or India is doing. And then, of course, afterwards, once we have our own structure, once we do our own homework, when we show the willingness to promote and preserve the Indian culture, then of course, there is this natural flow of collaboration from the government of India, from India that comes in. So I think what we need to think, us diaspora, individually or collectively, is how to step up on our side first, how to see it's not just only government initiatives, it can also be NGOs, it can be social cultural organizations. There are so many vehicles, so many institutions that we can think of to collectively work on the preservation of our Indian culture. Because when we talk about Indian culture, of course, its origin, it flows down from India, but we have also the responsibility today to preserve it, not for India, but for our children, for the generations to come. This depends on what we do. What we do, what we will do, will ensure the future of our children and of this Indian culture.
Hello.
Meenakshi ma'am, I have a question
I'm sorry,
for you. Meenakshi ma'am, I have a question in regard to what we have discussed.
I'm sorry, I would interrupt. You know that.
Ma'am, just 2 minutes.
Okay.
Just 2 minutes, please. So ma'am,
Please
I am
be
an
quick.
artist. मैं कलाकार हूँ. 2500 साल पुरानी मधुबनी जो शैली है वो perform करती हूँ. I have done shows in World Trade Center, Art Basel Miami, London, Venice, and all these places. I have like the experience that I had, like in respect to the question that somebody asked before, like how can we brand ourselves? One thing when I travel to India, what I feel is people, like when you know, being an artist, when I come from outside, I get more recognition than being here and being an artist. So I have an idea and suggestion, and a question also, just 2 minutes. Ma'am, what if we do an Indian art movement where, for example, if we take Rajwada, Chhatris, or Rani Ki Vav, all these places, we bring 3 international artists, we bring 3 local artists, 3 housewives probably, and maybe locals can support that event and we can do a show. So that can help us, you know, build an image and make them aware of what our history has been. Because when I post about like Rani Ki Vav,
Please, I would like to interrupt. You have to be really crisp. The other session is yet to start, and I'm already getting several reminders.
So, Meenakshi ma'am, I want to know how the government or the ministry can help, and what do you think about the idea?
No, the idea is nice, except I feel I don't want to name, but many foreigners came to this country, took away our art form, learnt our art form, rebranded themselves, and did not even say it's come from India. So no credit to India. Now, I would rather say that most of you who are artists and who are trained in our chalets, our art forms, should carry it outside, make a name, but keep branding India. That this comes from India, I'm an Indian, my inspiration comes from India, and learn the technique of marketing, learn the technique of holding yourself on an international stage, learn how to get into those markets, because that's where we are missing the game. And I think if people like you and others, that's I use the word, cultural entrepreneurs is a class which we need to create so that Indian art forms and craft gets rebranded and gets an international market. Now they are selling our products but not under our name. So we need to do that.
I feel that we need much
more. I'll come down and talk to you because...
Okay, thank you,
my question to the lady of
No, please, we
Nigeria.
would like to put a hold
Hello?
on it. Please. Yeah, we would like to close. I'm sorry. We are already falling short of time. It was a fantastic session, and I never knew that Ms. Lake is a historian as well. I think I'll have to sit together and, you know, we need to understand more. The suggestions given by each of you are really quite relevant and surely be taken forward for necessary action. I'm thankful to Honorable MOS Srimati Meenakshi Lekhi ji, ICCR, wonderful, vibrant speakers, of course, from different diaspora, and the fully charged audience who made the session perfectly interactive. Thank you all once again. And then there is a small announcement that Honorable Minister from Mauritius, I'm very pleased to inform you all that he wants to give the paintings. So I would like to request the organizers to bring the paintings on the stage, please. Beautiful painting, beautiful. Thank you. Very nice, very nice. Yeah. So kind of you, Mr. Tilak, so kind of you. So now you are building the setu right over here.
I'm building the setu.
And you have hundreds of delegates to support you. Of course, yes. I can see the claps out here. I expect the audience to give a big round of applause for the Honorable Minister, please. This we close. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We can have a group photo, please.